Hey y'all, so Madeline banner, right? Madeline banner, whenever she's in the banner, if you pull her from the banner, you get her legendary exclusive equipment, you get her SSR card for free, all that yada yada yada. So question, is she good? Answer, yes, she is good. But like all other things, let's go ahead and break it down a step at a time, and I will give you a detailed guide and description on how she can be built and some proper ways to actually utilize her. So without wasting too much time, let's jump into her contract. So Madeline is definitely a very heavy PvP focused unit, and I can explain why a little bit more in detail, but let's go ahead and break it down a step at a time. First thing we notice, she's a Union tanker, all right? She has a pretty freaking good base HP, so if we see she has 164, it's going to be higher than a lot of other people, a lot of other tankers. She's going to outperform them HP wise. Looking at her abilities, we see mainly focused on, resisting penetration being mostly a PvP focused stat, crit resistance, PvP focused stat, recovery increase, just basically focused on not getting crit, not getting penetrated, and recovering HP as fast as possible. Now her card increases the defense of all allies by 20% whenever she's under protection, and she can apply protection to herself. So essentially, you can guarantee that your entire team is taking less damage overall for almost the entirety of the fight. And her legendary exclusive equipment grants protection and super armor on allies in the range when using light quantum shield. Now that light quantum shield has a very large range. What super armor does is it going to tell us here, yes, the skill in use does not get canceled due to immunity against knockback and pulling. So basically, you can no longer be moved. You can't be pushed, can't be pulled. You're like trivia, right? You just can't be moved. That's all there is to it. You basically have a buff on you that prevents you from being displaced from the position that you're standing. That being said, if you're doing a cast, you can't be knocked out of your cast. Like if you're doing Agnes's charge skill, Hannah Cruel's charge, stuff like that. You can't be knocked out of it. Okay, so first skill, inflicts damage to the enemy by 24% of the attack, and it inflicts damage to the nearby enemies by 48% of the attack whenever you have her SSR promoted. This is promoted. Inflicts bonus damage to the selected enemy by 40% of the attack. So all in all, the multipliers aren't crazy. The two things to note about this is it is a multi-hit, so you get 2 hits out of it, and the second hit, I believe, is an area of effect as well, so you get a little bit more area in that attack to hit multiple enemies, and it can displace them. It can move them a little bit too. Second skill, Punishment. Inflicts damage to the enemies by 77% of the attack and pulls them towards you. Decreases the attack of enemies for 2 turns with a 20% chance. Whenever you promote this, it increases her own defense for 2 turns with up to a 100% chance. So if you want to get the attack break, activated, get that attack break landing more often, you're definitely going to need some effect accuracy on her to make sure that attack break is actually landing. The thing about this, it is a very wide obtuse angle cone. If you get an enemy within the cone, it will pull them towards Madeline. So very good for grouping enemies up, getting them in place for an area of effect nuker. Light Quantum Shield. Inflicts damage to the enemy by 61% of the attack and pulls the nearby enemies to yourself. Gains the protection effect, that's 20% of the total HP for 2 turns. Recovers your HP by 10% of the total HP each, and extends the skill range when you're under protection. So there's a lot going on with this ability, and it is her main selling point for why she's so good in PvP. First of all, the range of this is in a circle around Madeline. The range is humongous. You can definitely take around 80% of the enemy's entire field is within this range. The only way that you can possibly not get all the enemies in the range, if you have her frontlined and she moves forward, etc., the only way you cannot get them all in the range is if they are absolutely spread as far as they can possibly be. And even if they are, you can still get 4 of them with this ability. Pull them closer to Madeline so that you can group them up and get them all ready to be, basically under your control, under whenever you pull them all into a group. It's not like it pulls them from all the way at the end of the range directly on top of her, but it does move them closer to her and puts you in a good position to use Ziv's third skill or something to group them all up even more, and then this is pretty much a famous combo in PvP. Use Madeline third skill to pull them all a little bit closer to your team, use Ziv to group them all up in a tight-knit group, and then use Farius to just end them all, because the closer they are together, the more damage Farius does. So this is a very, very good ability to help make that combo possible. On top of that, it's going to gain the protection effect, so as we saw with her exclusive equipment, that'll be putting super armor on our allies as well, so that way they don't, this ability has so much going on. So because her card increases the defense of all allies whenever you're under protection, it puts her under protection. This skill will give all of your allies a defense buff, it will give them all super armor, and it will just, pull, oh my gosh, it does so much. We'll see it in action in a minute, but for now, let's just move on. Flashing Lightning is her rage skill, inflicts damage to the enemies by 80% of the attack, and stuns them for 1 turn with a 40% chance. Again, if you want that stun to land reliably, you're going to need a bit of effect accuracy on her to make that happen more often. So with the reviews, we'll go into the reviews. We will look at the top 3 rated, buff up the ones that are good, break down the ones that are bad, and then we'll leave a review ourselves. Thick thighs save lives. We won't count this one, but we'll thumbs up to that. We like those. This one says excellent tank. We'll move past that one. That's a little bit vague. Combos well with Chapman. Suck them all in and have Chapman AoE them down. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Her third skill is very good for pulling all enemies closer. So then Chapman, of course, being an area of effect nuker, makes him a lot more effective whenever he is paired with Madeline. Same with all area of effect nukers. Become a lot more effective whenever you have Madeline on your team. So we will thumbs that one up. What build? Don't worry, guy. We will get there in a second. Very nice tanker who can pull in others' foe. Great with other AoE attack champs. Exactly what I just said. So let's go ahead and buff that up. Great crowd control and survival. She controls the field if you play her right. Best tank. Okay, we'll go ahead and buff that one up too. Now these are the top rated ones. Let's go ahead and put one ourselves as well. Okay, so we have our review up there now. We were having a little bit of trouble with like characters and stuff like that. Anyways, we were able to sum it up to large range crowd control for pulling and grouping enemies. Third skill also makes allies tankier. Builds speed with lots of accuracy and HP. I feel like that gives us a pretty good consensus and a pretty good summary of like how she should be built and what her main role is. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the preview so we could see some of her abilities in real time. Okay, so first skill when unpromoted is just a multi-hit. It doesn't have any area of effect. It has a very short range, a very underwhelming ability, and it doesn't move them yet either. The second skill, we can see the wide range cone whenever we use it. The attack down is a pretty rare sight with not a lot of accuracy, but we are landing it on at least one enemy consistently while there are 3 of them, and we pull them as close to Madeline as possible when we use this ability on them. Now this third skill, as we see when it's unpromoted, the range is pretty small, and it does almost the same thing as the second skill, except for instead of attack breaking the enemy, it will put protection on Madeline and pull them to her as close as possible. Rage skill, same thing. Whenever you use this, it hits them in a small, range group, and it can, if you highlight it, it'll tell you which ones will be hit, and then they have a chance to be stunned with that as well. This is not the Madeline we want. Whenever you are testing these units, you always want to strive for them to be fully built, because this is the Madeline we will want at the end of the day. This is how she will perform whenever she's fully built. So let's check this out. Now first skill, when it's promoted, we can see that it is now an area of effect, and it is moving this enemy a little bit further back every time we use it. So it does displace their movement a little bit, and then it does also become an area of effect. Even though that is not really, laid out in the text, that is a bonus effect with that ability. Second skill, now whenever we use this, not only will they be attack broken, but she will get the defense up buff. So she will be much harder to kill, especially if they're right next to Madeline. They might be more inclined to attack her anyways. If they're attack broken, she's defense buffed. There's no way that they're killing her at that point. The range isn't increased, but it just is an extra utility added to that ability. Now with this third skill fully promoted, we can really see that the range on this thing becomes absolutely nuts. Like the circle of it is just humongous. It pulls them a little bit closer towards her, and it gives our allies super armor and protection, and they have a defense buff because of her, or not a defense buff per se, but they have defense increased. Their defense is increased because of her SSR card. We can see increases the defense of allies by 20% when she's under protection. So this skill just does so many things at one time. It's really nutty. So that skill becomes very good whenever it's maxed out. And this stun, it just basically distance extension, so whenever they're farther away, now we can still hit all 3 of them. So even if we do it here, we're still able to use that and get stuns off if we have enough accuracy. So that's about it whenever it comes to how her abilities are to be used. Now whenever it comes to building her, there are certain ways you could do it, but there really is a best way to do it. If we see mine is pretty much fully built. There is a speed meta like monopoly on PvP right now. There are just turn 1 combos in PvP that if you get the combo off turn 1, it becomes very hard, if not impossible, for the enemy to recover, and Madeline is a part of some of that meta. So as we talked about with her third skill, Ziv third skill, Farius third skill, all of that, these combos are just insane, and in order to pull those off, you have to have an insane amount of speed. So the very first thing I would always recommend on her would be a dash set with attack speed gloves. Just as much speed as possible. It's she doesn't have an attack speed ability, so you're going to need to pump a lot of speed in her to outspeed a Ziv. And you're comboing her with Ziv also, so you need their speeds to be sort of relatively close to each other so that they can actually perform the combo well. So definitely dash attack speed gluffs. As for the ring and boots, I would definitely recommend my ring. Personally, I just have attack percent right now because the attack speed sub is 150. You want to make them as fast as you possibly can, but if you have the option for the ring, I would definitely choose HP because HP percent is going to scale better with her than it would with some other characters because her base HP is so high that she will get more stats overall by using an HP percent ring. Now for the boots, you could either opt for, a tanky stat like HP or defense, or you could do accuracy so that you can start landing some of these debuffs more effectively. If we see I only have 20% accuracy on her, it's only enough to get me a 24% chance to attack break, so definitely having accuracy on your boots might be a lot more helpful in making sure that you land debuffs like this. And the last thing we like to do here is we like to recommend my top 3 rage cards that I would personally use on my Madeline. So let's go ahead and get into those too. One card I might recommend for Madeline if you're using her on the offense is the Boomerang Rage card. It steals the rage bar of the enemy who attacked you with a crit by 10. So as you're pulling all these enemies close to her, they might be more inclined to attack her with their AI since she is the closest enemy for them to attack. So if she's attacked and she's hit with a crit, one, it's not going to do too much damage to her because of, all of her tankiness that's just rolled in with her character. But if she is crit, she will be stealing 10 of their rage bars so that enemy will be less likely to get their rage skill off by the end of the fight. And then the faster she gets her rage card too, why can't I talk in this sentence? The faster she gets her rage skill too, she will use her rage ability and she can stun those enemies as well. So I do think this would be a very good card to use for her. The second card I would recommend isn't really one card, but it's sort of a subsection of cards. These ones that increase a certain class's attack speed by 10%. That way she's mostly just like a support tank. You don't really need a nuki, card on her. You don't need one for survival because she has so much survivability already. So being able to help better support your entire team, since she's already supporting your entire team with her third skill, with one of these rage cards that increases, attack speed, since attack speed's running the meta, is going to be a very good card. So you could either do tanker to help increase her attack speed, you can do ranger ones to increase ranger attack speed, support, all of that. And then all in all, if you can't decide on a certain class, speed signal is going to increase the attack bar of all allies by 100 when the battle begins. So if you can't really decide on a class, you could do this as sort of a jack of all trades card to increase the attack bar of everyone on your team by 100. And of course, my number one card I would recommend for her, I'm pretty sure everyone saw this coming, is the Speed Supplement Rage card. Increases the attack bar by 150 when the battle begins. So her combo pretty much relies on her getting turn 1. Since she doesn't have a speed ability, it can be pretty difficult to get turn 1 on her. So putting this on her where she gets 150 attack bar right off the bat is really an ideal card for her to use because you need her to turn 1, Ziv to turn 2, and then whatever nuker you're using at that point to turn 3 with that combo. So this is definitely going to give you more attack bar than any other card would. The tanker speed card, you can put that on someone else and put this on your Madeline to make sure that she's actually getting that turn 1. And that's pretty much going to do it for Madeline today, folks. If you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord. We have new players and veteran players and they're alike. They like to help each other out, just drop a meme. We just have fun in there basically. But yep, other than that, y'all, that's going to do it for me today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.